Welcome, curious listeners, to The Deep Dive.
Hey, everyone.
Today, we're taking on a story that's just dominated headlines in India for, nearly a decade now.
Feels like it. Yep.
A truly extraordinary rise, a pretty spectacular downfall, and this whole web of persistent allegations.
We are, of course, talking about Vijay Mallya.
Exactly, a figure, synonymous with controversy. And the big thing is, for the first time in 9 years, he's chosen to speak publicly.
Right, which is huge news in itself.
So our mission in this deep dive is really to unpack Maya's own perspective on everything, from his early life, his business triumphs, to the really complex legal battles he's facing now, especially around Kingfisher Airlines.
Yeah, we've gone through a ton of sources, including his direct statements, his interviews, trying to pull out the key bits of info for you.
And we want to present all sides here, maybe question some common narratives, and just help you gain a really thorough understanding of what's, frankly, an incredibly complex story.
That's right. And this isn't about, judging Mallya. It's about understanding his narrative, especially because it challenges so many public perceptions.
Good point.
And just quickly for our international listeners, you'll hear us mention crores quite a bit. 1 crore is 10 million rupees. So when we talk about these figures...
We're talking serious money. Billions of rupees often.
Exactly. Big numbers.
Okay, so let's dive right in. The immediate question I think everyone has is, Mallya has been silent, like radio silent, for almost 10 years. Why break that silence now?
Well, his stated reason is that he's been subjected to what he calls a vicious, relentless trial by media in India for 9 years straight.
Okay.
He claims this, legacy media created negative narratives and just flat out refused to report his side of the story.
So he sees this as a way around that.
Yeah, he views new media, things like podcasts, basically, as a chance to bypass those traditional channels and tell his own story directly.
And what's really striking, timing-wise, is this recent development he points to.
Ah, yes, the recovery figure. This is key to why he's speaking now, I think.
He highlights the government of India's official acknowledgement that 14,100 crores have been recovered from him.
Right. And he puts that right up against the Debt Recovery Tribunal's judgment debt, which was just over 6,200 crores.
So it's 4,999 crores principal plus about 1,200 crores in interest.
Correct. And he keeps emphasizing, and this is important to his argument, that he was the guarantor. Kingfisher Airlines was the borrower, not him directly.
That recovery figure, the 40,100 crore, it really does change the narrative, doesn't it? Or at least he hopes it does.
Absolutely. I mean, having an official government number acknowledging that level of recovery, it's a powerful counter-argument to the idea that he, duped the banks and ran off with the money.
Especially when it's more than double the original judgment debt.
Exactly. He definitely sees it as a form of vindication. Whether others see it that way is another question.
Okay, that sets the stage.
Yep.
Now, let's rewind a bit. Because one of the common perceptions, certainly that I had, was of Mallya as this, spoiled rich kid, silver spoon type.
Right. And his account directly challenges that.
How so?
Well, he was born in Kolkata, and he describes a very strict upbringing. His father was apparently exceptionally intelligent, very demanding. He says his father taught him some key lessons. Focus on education, earn your place, don't take anything for granted because government policies could wipe it all out.
Sounds pretty intense.
It does.
Yeah.
And he started young, management trainee at 17, earning just 400 rupees a month stipend.
Wow, 400 rupees.
Yeah. And apparently went through really rigorous training. Salesman, accounting, the works, strict supervisors. He even did stints overseas.
Where was that?
American Hochist in the U.S., and then Jensen and Nicholson in England, where he was actually a paint foreman.
A paint foreman. Okay, definitely not the picture most people have.
No, so a pretty grounded start, according to him.
And then came a huge shift. His father died suddenly in '83. He's only 27, and suddenly he's in charge of the whole UB group.
Yeah, massive responsibility thrown at him, and he changed things up.
How did his style differ from his father's?
He describes his father as more of a micromanager. Mallya says he brought in decentralized accountability, gave people more freedom.
And that led to Burger Paints.
That was a big one, yeah. He acquired the global Burger Paints business in '88. His big dream then was creating India's first multinational.
Ambitious.
Very. And he eventually sold Burger in '96 for what he calls a fat profit. And he makes the point of saying this was his first real non-inherited money.
Oh, okay. That's telling.
It shows that drive, right? to prove himself beyond his father's legacy.
Absolutely. And that drive really came through in his marketing. I mean, King of Marketing wasn't an undeserved title. How did he do it? Kingfisher Beer, McDowell's?
He had a real knack for it. Kingfisher Beer was an old brand, 1857 apparently. He relaunched it completely. New packaging, but crucially, he tied it to lifestyle. Music, fashion, motor racing.
Giving it that colorful personality he talks about.
Exactly. And it worked incredibly well. 52% market share, India's #1 beer. Huge success.
And McDowell's #1 whiskey.
Same story, different product. He developed it into the world's largest selling whiskey, selling, 32 million cases a year now? Just astronomical numbers.
It really is. Now, that famous tagline, the King of Good Times, where'd that come from? Was that him?
He actually clarifies this. He says King of Good Times was originally just text printed on the Kingfisher beer bottle.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then he says the media picked it up and started calling him that, connecting it to his rather public lifestyle choices.
So a media creation in his telling.
That's his claim, not a self-appointed title.
Interesting. And you mentioned his father's foresight earlier, something about prohibition.
Oh yeah, this is fascinating strategy. Both his father and later Mallya himself apparently saw prohibition scares in India not as a threat, but an opportunity.
Awesome.
Well, like in 1977, under Morarji Desai, there was talk of nationwide prohibition. Other liquor companies panicked, wanted to sell cheap.
And the Mallya's bought.
Exactly. They were convinced prohibition would never stick in India long term, so they snapped up struggling brands for pennies on the dollar, basically.
Smart. Very counterintuitive.
Definitely laid the groundwork for UB Group's dominance later on.
Okay, so he built this massive empire, showed real business and marketing skill, but then came the venture that, well, changed everything. Kingfisher Airlines.
The beginning of the end, in some ways, though it started with huge ambition.
How did that idea even start?
It was around 2002, 2003. Apparently, the idea initially came from the Damani brothers.
And Mallya ran with it. What was his vision?
His vision was grand. He wanted to create India's absolute best flying experience. Premium product, passenger comfort, safety, the whole package.
Not just another airline.
So, and also connecting places in India that weren't well connected by air, seeing it as a nation-building infrastructure almost.
And the initial model. It wasn't exactly standard low cost, was it?
No, that's a key point he makes. It started single class, technically low cost, but he insisted on differentiators, like in-flight entertainment, meals.
Because Indians love food and entertainment, as he put it.
That was his reasoning, yeah. Which, wasn't typical for budget airlines then. Later, they added Kingfisher First, the business class, because the market demanded it.
He draws parallels to Indigo now, doing similar things.
He does, and he says he was obsessive about operations. Daily SMS reports on punctuality from every single airport manager. Apparently, he reviewed them personally.
Wow. That's hands-on.
And it seemed to work for a while. By 2008, Kingfisher was India's biggest airline. 27% market share.
Flying high. Literally. So what went wrong? It sounds like it was doing incredibly well. What was the turning point?
According to Mallya, the big hit was the 2008 global financial crisis. The Lehman Brothers crash, as he calls it.
Okay, that hit aviation hard everywhere.
Absolutely devastating for the sector. And Mallya claims this is where things really started to go sideways, partly due to government influence.
What does he mean by that?
He claims he went to the finance minister at the time, Pranab Mukherjee, and said, look, we need to downsize, we need to lay people off to survive this crisis.
Makes sense from a business perspective.
But, Mallya alleges, Mukherjee told him not to, explicitly, with an assurance that banks will support you.
Wow. That's a huge claim.
It is. Mallya says that moment, that directive, was how it all started. He believes he was prevented from making necessary cuts early on.
If true, that certainly adds a layer of complexity.
Definitely. And then layered on top of that, you have the Deccan acquisition controversy.
Right. That's often painted as this huge mistake.
Yeah.
Paying too much just to fly internationally sooner.
That's the common narrative. Mallya completely rejects it, vehemently.
So what's his explanation?
He frames it as industry consolidation. Deccan was a disruptor with its crazy low fares, like those 1 rupee tickets.
Okay, so eliminate a competitor.
Eliminate a disruptor, and also, crucially, leverage the fact that both airlines used Airbus planes, synergy, commonality of equipment.
And Kingfisher Red.
He says that was their differentiated low-cost offering, separate from the premium Kingfisher First. He insists the acquisition price and Deccan itself had nothing to do with the airline's ultimate failure, says it was a sound business decision at the time.
Okay, so he's got a counter-narrative for that, too. Which brings us squarely to the loans. The huge amounts borrowed. The public thinks he borrowed it.
And again, he draws that sharp distinction. Kingfisher Airlines, the company, was the borrower. He, Vijay Mallya, was the guarantor.
Meaning he put his own assets and UB Holdings assets on the line.
Correct. His personal guarantee, UB Holdings' corporate guarantee. He admits Kingfisher Airlines shares were pledged as part of the collateral.
At maybe inflated values, critics would say.
That's the criticism, but he stresses it was a multiple basket of securities. And crucially, that basket included valuable shares in his profitable companies, UBL and USL.
United Breweries and United Spirits.
Yes. And those are the shares, he points out, that eventually generated that massive 14,100 crore recovery when they were sold off.
Got it. It's a complex financial picture. Now, one of the most charged aspects of this whole saga, the unpaid employees.
Yeah, that really fueled public anger. Understandably.
How does he address that failure?
He acknowledges the cash flow problems hit everyone, employees included, but he adds a critical claim here.
Which is?
He asserts that 260 crores of UB Group's own money, which could have paid salaries, was frozen by the Karnataka High Court.
Frozen? Why?
At the objection, he claims, of the very same banks that Kingfisher owed money to. So his argument is the banks themselves prevented him from paying his staff with available funds.
That's quite an accusation.
It is. He also denies playing favorites, paying international staff over Indian staff, saying any discrepancies were just down to where ticket money was collected, like in England.
Does he express remorse?
He does express deep regret. He publicly apologized for Kingfisher's failure and the unpaid salaries, saying he made every single effort to pay them.
And the claim, he took a huge salary himself while this was happening.
He flatly denies taking a 33 crore annual salary when others weren't getting paid. Calls it untrue.
Okay. It seems like for every accusation, he has a rebuttal ready. What about his image? The showman persona, the lifestyle. That 60th birthday party got so much flack.
He addresses that directly. First, he points out the party was in December 2015. Kingfisher stopped flying way back in October 2012.
So years later.
Years later. He does concede, though, that in hindsight, given the media scrutiny, it maybe was a mistake, but he insists it was privately funded, invitation only.
And the general flamboyance.
He argues that was largely a media creation. You know, the King of Good Times persona helped sell newspapers and TV slots. He maintains he spent his own money, not airline money, on his lifestyle.
What about specific allegations like siphoning money for properties in France?
He dismisses that specific 35 million claim as rubbish. His counterargument is basically, how could the airline have even operated if he was taking out sums like that?
It raises the question of how these narratives get built, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The interplay between personal choices, business realities, and media portrayal is central here.
So if he wasn't siphoning money and the airline failed due to market conditions and maybe bad advice, what about settling the debt? He insists he tried.
This is probably the cornerstone of his current argument. He claims he made 4 distinct settlement offers to the banks.
4 times. When?
Between 2012 and 2015, including, he says, one offer formally placed before the Supreme Court of India.
And the banks.
He claims they refused to accept every single offer. His argument now is almost, look, you refused 5,000 crores back then, and because assets appreciated, you ended up getting 14,100 crores later, so why are you still complaining?
That's a bold argument.
It is, and he adds another layer of accusation against the banks.
Oh, wow.
He alleges they still haven't given him a proper statement of account showing how the recovered money was applied, despite him asking repeatedly, even through the courts. He had to file a petition in the Karnataka High Court just to try and force them to provide it.
No statement of account. That sounds off.
Very odd, if true. He points out that other bodies, like the Debt Recovery Tribunal and the official liquidator, have apparently stated in court that the banks have been fully paid.
So much conflicting information. Which leads to the question, if he wanted to settle, why leave India? Why become the fugitive?
His explanation for leaving on March 2nd, 2016 is that it was a pre-planned trip.
For what?
A meeting in Geneva, an FIA World Motorsport Council meeting, he says. He also claims he personally informed the finance minister at the time, Arun Jaitley, that he was going.
And he denies fleeing, denies dodging a court appearance.
Yes, he denies there was any Supreme Court order for him to appear the next day, March 3rd. His narrative is, he left normally, then events overtook him.
What if it?
His passport got suspended on April 15th, 2016, then fully revoked just over a week later on April 24th. This happened after he'd asked for more time to appear before the Enforcement Directorate, India's Economic Crime Agency.
Ah, the ED.
Right. So he claims he intended to return to India to face the summons, but the passport revocation essentially stranded him in the UK.
Which, of course, led to all the labels. Fugitive, fraud, chore, which means thief.
Devastating labels, and he sees them as the product of a perfect storm.
Meeting.
Media frenzy, political opportunism, making him a scapegoat, basically. A targeted attack to make an example out of him.
His big counter-argument seems to be,
Business failure means fraud in India. That's his line. He points to many other failed airlines, failed businesses where the promoters weren't slapped with these kinds of labels.
why him then, in his view?
He questions why the focus remains so intensely on him, especially now after the banks have recovered so much money.
And the specific allegations from the CBI and ED, siphoning hundreds of crores, laundering thousands.
He refutes them. The CBI's euro 423 crore siphoning claim, the ED's euro 3,547 crore money laundering claim, he argues, large chunks of airline spending are legitimately in foreign currency. Fuel, leases, maintenance.
What about the Kingfisher brand valuation? That euro 100 crore figure raised eyebrows.
He calls that a misrepresentation, says it was done by respected international valuers Grant Thornton, Brand Finance, and that the banks accepted that valuation when they took the brand as collateral.
And the UK extradition proceedings?
He makes a point to clarify that the UK courts weren't deciding guilt or innocence. Their job was only to see if there was a prima facie case, basically, enough initial evidence to send him back to India for trial.
So the legal fight continues there.
Yes, but his core message remains. This was a business failure, compounded by various factors, not criminal fraud.
It's clear his perspective challenges the dominant narrative on almost every point. Shifting gears a bit, beyond the legal fights and balance sheets, what about the man himself? What drives him? His passions?
Well, he talks about RCB, Royal Challengers Bangalore, his cricket team. He insists it wasn't just a vanity project.
No. What was it then?
A strategic business decision, he says, primarily to promote his Royal Challenge whiskey brand. And he's quick to point out how profitable the franchise is now.
And he picked Virat Kohli, didn't he?
Yeah, he mentions picking Kohli for just 20 lakh, back when Kohli was an under-19 player. Quite the eye for talent there.
Definitely. What else? Formula One.
Force India. That, he says, was pure passion. Lifelong love of motor racing. Wanted to put the Indian flag on the grid. He used it for branding, yes, but denies using any Kingfisher Airlines money for it.
And the famous Kingfisher calendar.
Calls it a fantastic marketing tool, and points out accurately that it launched the careers of huge stars like Deepika Padukone and Katrina Kaif.
True. He's also known for loving cars, right?
Oh, absolutely. A deep passion for collecting and, importantly, restoring vintage cars in India. Yeah, he talks about buying them sometimes as total wrecks for tiny sums, like 50,000 air. Mentions a Rolls Royce he found with a tree growing through it.
Wow. Any favorites?
He mentions a 1931 Pierce Arrow, a very stately American car, and a really old one, a 1903 Derrick.
And that house on top of the building in Bangalore, the Sky Mansion.
The Kingfisher Tower bungalow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he explains that. Apparently his childhood home was on that land, and someone jokingly suggested putting a replica of it on top of the new tower.
And they actually did it. Or started to.
They started to build it, yeah. Became a reality, though he notes it's still unfinished because of all the legal issues.
Okay, fascinating stuff.
Yep.
Finally, looking back at everything, what are his personal reflections on life, relationships?
He speaks very warmly of his mother, calls her his rock, says she taught him, don't waste time in life arguing.
That's quite a lesson.
It is. And his father, a strong bond there, too. Learned hard work and an ability to read a balance sheet from him. But he does acknowledge his father would definitely not be proud of the chore tag.
Understandable. How does he describe his life now in the UK?
Sort of semi-retired. Spends time with his dogs. He has 6 of them.
6 dogs.
Yeah. Tinkers with his classic cars, oversees what's left of his businesses, mainly the alcohol and brewery side. He admits being stuck in one country is a huge game changer after decades of flying constantly around the world.
Must be isolating, in a way.
He touches on that, loneliness and realizing who his actual friends were when things got tough. He specifically mentions Kiran Mazumdar Shah as someone who provided constant support.
And how does he see himself after all this?
Yeah.
A failure.
No. Despite the public narrative, he says he doesn't see himself as a failure. He describes himself as tough and someone who stands his ground.
So, summing this all up for you, our listener, we've really walked through Vijay Mallya's side of the story, From what he says were humble-ish beginning
Relatively speaking.
to the absolute highs of global business, aviation, and then this crash, the legal battles that define him now.
And his core assertion, repeated again and again, is that this is fundamentally about money owed versus money recovered. And he claims the money recovered is now more than double the original debt.
Right. Versus the persistent allegations of fraud, siphoning, being a fugitive, all of which continue to dog him.
So connecting this back to the bigger picture, when you consider all these complexities, the starkly conflicting narratives, and that huge, officially acknowledged recovery figure, what does this deep dive suggest?
Yeah, what does it tell us about maybe how justice works or how public perception is shaped, especially around business failure in a place like India?
What stands out to you after hearing his side? What's the most compelling bit of this puzzle for you? And what new questions does it spark about this whole saga? Something to think about.